dear participants who are here with us for this international webinar, which is free courtesy of the Philippine Society for Quality. I am Hill M. Malien Jr. I am one of the PSQ technical specialists for the Quality Management Technical Hub, and it is my pleasure to serve as your host for today's complimentary international webinar. We're glad to have all of you here gathered as we continue to acquaint ourselves with new trends and issues that concerns quality. For this afternoon session, we are very fortunate to have with us a very renowned speaker who will share to us his time and expertise about a very important topic. And this topic is entitled Active Leadership Enabling Transformation for Sustainability. This comes in a very strategic timeline, especially for us here in the
Okay
Philippines.
po.
We're in just a few days, we're going to have our national elections. So this is very timely so that we could see how active leadership really plays an important role in every organization. So please take note that e-certificates will be given to those who will join and who will answer the participants' experience survey after the webinar. So please stay tuned. There are several key takeaways for this webinar. One is that active leadership has emerged as an effective leadership style to cope with sustainable challenges. We also would know how responsible leaders create lasting value and equitable impact for all stakeholders, and that senior leaders play a crucial role in engaging their companies on a path aligned with social and environmental concerns. Beyond driving change with their own company, they can also work in partnership to influence policy and convince investors of the need for new business models. To further enlighten us about this interesting topic on active leadership is our resource speaker, an academician from the International Academy for Quality, the past president of the Asia Pacific Quality Organization, and the past chair of the Global Performance Excellence Awards, or GPEA. Our speaker is the, a retired vice president and director for business excellence at ST Engineering Limited in October 2016. He was responsible for sustaining relevancy of business excellence and various management system standards and productivity within the ST Group as head quality management development, then at the ST Engineering Group. Prior to joining ST Group, he was the officer commanding for Maintenance Center at Paya Lebar Air Base, Republic of Singapore Air Force, and was appointed as the head for Productivity Development Unit at the Ministry of Defense Headquarters, steering productivity and quality in the Ministry HQ and the various services of the Singapore Armed Forces. He is also the current chair of the National Quality and Core Business Processes Technical Committee and is a member of the QSSC Singapore Standards Council and is an expert, trainer, and consultant for APO COE for Business Excellence. He serves as advisor, Organizational Excellence, Ministry of Education, and is an adjunct assessor for the EduTrust SSG and a member of SG Clean Quality Mark Task Force, Public Hygiene Council, an external advisor for the Home Team Training Excellence Learning Circle, and advisor OE Sustainability in Gardens by the Bay. He also served as Singapore Business Excellence Initiative Lead Assessor, a Baldrige-trained and Global Performance Excellence Award examiner. He has led many Singapore Quality Awards, or SQAs, and SQA Special Commendation for Singapore Quality Class, SQC for PEOs, and BE Niche Awards for Service Excellence, Innovation Excellence, and People Excellence, and Certifications Assessment. He has participated as international assessor and conducted training BE to stakeholders, national BE assessors, and BE consultants in Singapore, Sri Lanka, Qatar, Fiji, Philippines, Thailand, Taiwan, Iran, Pakistan, Vietnam, China, Saudi Arabia, Mongolia, Malaysia, UAE, and is a technical expert for Asia Productivity Organization, a UNIDO international consultant for business excellence and productivity. He was also honorary secretary for Singapore Productivity Association's Management Committee and served on the judging panel for the PS21 Public Sector Transformation Awards Service Excellence Awards Committee. He has also received numerous awards, commendations, and special recognitions for his work in quality, productivity, and business excellence from Singapore Air Force, Ministry of Defense, ST Engineering, and Singapore Public Sector since 1985. He is the first and the only recipient of the special award presented by the PSB, now ESG, for promoting and managing team excellence and productivity in Singapore in 1998. He was also the first recipient of the inaugural Singapore Business Excellence Initiative Gold Jacket in 2015 for his contribution to BE locally, regionally, and internationally, and as a school advisory management committee member for his contribution, he was awarded the Service to Education Award 2018 by the Ministry of Education, Singapore. In 2018, he was bestowed the International Sudomo Quality Leadership Award by Indonesian Quality Management Association and as a recipient of the APQO Harrington Ishikawa Award 2019. Perhaps he is the best person to share with us active leadership enabling transformation for sustainability. Let us all warmly welcome Mr. Harnik Singh. Good afternoon, sir.
Thank you, Gilbert, for the very elaborate Hapun, and very good afternoon, Dr. Ray, President of the Philippines Society for Quality, members of the PSQ board, friends, distinguished participants, Kamustaka. Thank you for this opportunity to participate and learn through this PSQ International webinar. Even though I'm sharing, I'm also learning. I think learning is a never-ending journey. I first visited 4 years back, 1982, and had seen many times, many major developments that through. So my topic today is on active leadership, enabling transformation for sustainability. So if I may say that there is, as a result of the COVID pandemic, an estimated 2.7 billion people worldwide, that is about 4 out of 5 from the global workforce, has been affected by lockdowns and stay-at-home measures. Business and government leaders have been challenged to both respond to the crisis quickly and rethink their workforce strategies in real time. And organizations need to be agile and resilient to survive. In the last 2 years have been tough, and I think all of you have experienced, you're working people and you know what happens in organizations, government and whatnot. So what different things does resilient mean to stakeholders? I mean, especially when we put them into these trees, there are actually many stakeholders, three: employees, customers, and leadership. The key for leadership, the key is that there need to be clarity on the direction of the organization. And what it means is the implications of happened in the future and are considered. Whatever happens in the future, are considered in defining its purpose or its mission going forward and setting goals and objectives. So the leadership has to be very clear so that they can steer the organization out of it. And then for customers, I think it is about the belief, as what you say there, that the organization can deliver what you want them to deliver, and that they feel to be part of the organization's journey. So it's very important that the customer angle considered, because customers also have a concern, and they also must make sure that the organization is able to support their needs and their requirements. And of course, then the employees, you and me and all of us, it's about security, and of course, safety and security, and of course, motivation, and the pride in managing reputation. Reputation, all of those things that sit at the heart of what the organization does. Because the employees who actually does everything, and it's very important that the employees their needs and concerns, especially safety, security, health, and things like that, are really taken into account. Can I have a next slide, please? So if you look at the, we are all aware that resilience isn't about staying the same throughout all the times of the crisis. It's about being able to strive and grow out, to adapt to the unexpected expectations. So we say that the operational, which is very important, is a critical managing in a change environment faced with unrelenting disruptions. There is no one size that fits all strategy for the operational resilience. It requires continual assessment, continually see what's happening, analysis and adaptation of existing strategies to address the uniqueness and challenges of each and every future crisis that will come. So what you do now, and you are preparing to make sure you're able to respond to any future crisis. And there are typically four underlying pillars, which are there on the slide. You see there are four underlying pillars. And for operational excellence, that can be, so these four areas that we are looking at. And I think some of you already know that since 2020, ISO has pushed the ISO 22316 security and resilience for organizations to use it to help them. So these four areas, typically, first is about leaders, about people, The leaders must acknowledge the future lies in elastic workforce, because it is very important. It demands in a very different way of managing people. We must ensure that teams are fully engaged and they are productive and collaborative, while allowing people more freedom in achieving a work-life balance. I think that's what we're talking about, in spite of the COVID circumstances and situation. Technology is very, very important, and it plays a very important part in this whole 2 years. The leaders must invest in the right fit technology. You must know your organizations, you must know what's happening and what is the context. And they must be and always on, that means always on and ready for scalability. So use technology and scale it very quickly and change. So this is very important, so you can leverage on technology to do that. And of course, the next is about transformation. And so you know that the transformation can't happen effectively without leveraging innovative solutions, adapting best practices. I think you all are very good in benchmarking and best practices. I think it's very important that we leverage on that to manage a flexible workforce that ensure continuous improvement is there. And then sustainable transformation really will require what we call detailed planning and need the employee buy-in, and change management approaches must be adopted. And the fourth one is compliance. Leaders must promote an enterprise-wide compliance-first culture. Because compliance is very important, and today compliance has taken a very high profile and high level of importance. It is no longer good enough just for compliance to be considered like a sole responsibility of the compliance officers in an organization. The organization's wide thinking has to change. So there is ownership of the compliance at all levels of the organization. So compliance will give you strength and kind of stability in that. Next, but active leadership. So there's two things we're talking about: active leadership and sustainability leadership. So what is active leadership? So active leadership is typically is as the name implies, it basically requires leaders who are directly involved with their people. Very important, with the employees and the workers or the team members, the workforce and team members. Basically, they are really engaged with all of them. They encourage them. As I said earlier, they encourage them, they engage them, and they basically cheer them up. They cheer them, they lead them. So they are playing a very active part in that. So active leaders typically are energetic and passionate themselves, forming genuine connections. So with their team, so they feel there's a sense of buddy and kind of togetherness. And the question is, why should leaders be active? Active leaders provide an environment that encourages, engages, and motivates employees to do their best, because that is very important. Because employees look up to the leaders and they see them involved with them together. It really encourages and motivates them. And these leaders will work to remove any obstacles in the way, so as to give employees a strong guidance, guide them, lead them in growing their leadership capabilities. Because employees also want to grow and help them in their development and also in their growth as they move forward. So for sustainability, hold on, I think we get the last slide. For sustainability leadership, it's about when leaders of businesses, often the bosses, the CEOs, they manage companies. They consider the environment, society, and long-term sustainable development goals is in their mind. Often we refer them like the three Ps, the triple bottom line. I think we're talking about that. The people, planet, and profit. I think more and more awareness about sustainability and green is actually catching up across the world. And even UN have their 17 SDGs, their 17 sustainability development goals for various organizations, countries, and organizations to take that and plan for themselves. But why is this leadership important for sustainability? Because sustainable leadership is typically a source of competitive advantage for organizations. Organization leadership brings opportunities to the organizations, especially in the shape of innovation, continuous improvement, and sustained success and growth. So it is very, very important that these leaders really accept that there is a thing called sustainability and accept that they have a very important role to push the sustainability of an organization and of the industry and of the country. So it's very important for them to do that. So next slide. So then we talk about active leadership. So this is suggested 6 skills that we'll talk about. So the 6 here down here. So for decisiveness, if you want to be an effective leader, and what is important, you need to have the ability and the skill to make well-informed decisions within a short span of time, because you must be decisive. You cannot wait and wait and wait. And decisiveness is typically the ability that you can develop with more and more experience. In the right places with training and experience, you can actually do that. And for integrity, I think this is very important. Having integrity goes beyond just being honest or truthful. It's beyond that. And often it also means that you establish and uphold a set of values. The values which usually refers to the ability to make what are called ethical decisions and maintaining and improving the positive image of the organization, because the organization's image is affected by the what we call the integrity of its leaders and of its people. So businesses in all industries are normally keen to hire people who can demonstrate a strong commitment to integrity. That's why when you go for interviews for the higher positions, some or other, the interview process, integrity is a very important part. It's very, very important. So, we all know that it's very important. An active leader who must be capable to solve issues that come across them during their course of work, when they're doing a project or they're given a task, how they do that. And they got trained in problem-solving tools and whatnot. So with good problem-solving skills, you can make what we call critical decisions, decisions which are more closer to what possibly can happen, and you can help to overcome unexpected obstacles, if any, ensure that projects, if you are working on a project, will be completed to the specifications and schedules which you possibly have agreed on. As a result, you gain the trust and confidence of your employees and of your colleagues and everybody. Team building. Team building is, of course, another core thing. It's very important. Without team, very difficult to succeed. An active leader must be able to form and maintain a strong team. It must have a strong team, a team of individuals who can work together. That is very important, very, very important. Whether you are within your own small team or within the organization or within cluster of industries or even within the government, it's very big. And be able to work together harmoniously so that we can achieve the same goal. So team building is one of the most important leadership skills which is needed. I think as a leader, you must be able to work the team together. So it enables you to ensure all your team members clearly understand their roles and objectives. So first, you must communicate the roles and objectives, set it clearly, and it contributes to a very positive work environment that will surely enhance the productivity and the efficiency. So it's very important. So dependability, typically we'll say reliable, I mean. So to be successful as an active leadership role, to be successful in an active leadership role, you must or you have to keep your promises and follow through whatever you have planned. So people now can trust you that whatever is given to you, and you always deliver. So your past, your record will actually project, the dependability level. As you need to be straightforward to your colleagues, straightforward. You will be frank with your colleagues, and you must complete your assignments and your projects on time, in fact, punctually, and full obligations. So you have to have an effective backup plan if you fail. So if you plan like that, and the people around you work with you will know how dependable you are. So dependability is a very important active leadership skill, so that when you're there, it's good to that. Then it's about mentoring. We have heard a lot about mentoring, mentor this, mentor that, and I think the ability to mentor is a vital leadership skill that can set you apart from your colleagues. How do you bring out the best in whoever you are mentoring, or maybe your, what they say, the word mentee? Yeah? It is the ability to teach your colleagues the skills they need to grow in their careers so that they can succeed. So you play a very important role in helping your company grow. Because as your mentee becomes better, they will do a better job to collect. This requires you to think less about yourself and more about the needs and goals of the team. So I think that part is important. So you're not selfish, you're not self-centered, you're really talking about team-centric. So to become a good mentor, there are certain skills normally which are important. I think it's good to actually hone these skills. It's assessment and clarity, helpfulness, having a positive attitude, and motivation, and more importantly, the ability to recognize and reward people that you see. Next. Next slide. Okay, good. So this is about Baldrige, and I think the Philippine Quality Award how you've been doing a good job. What the criteria to make this valid is still be a highly very high performing organization, whether it's public or private sector. So for the year 21-22, as you can see, they have featured some new things and to review. Can I have the next slide, please? Next slide. Okay, you can see that what they've done is that they have renewed the focus on 5 areas. Resilience. Because in 2020, COVID already hit them. So when they were doing the review, they realized that really agility and resilience very, very important. Innovation, exploiting technology, innovating and all that. So innovation is very important. And innovation has been around, if I'm not wrong, for the last at least 4 to 6 years. But somehow or other, how and what about innovation perhaps has becoming more and more clearer. How more like that thing. Even ISO have now got an innovation management standard for helping organizations to do that. So innovation is very important. Then the other challenge is about diversity, equity, and inclusiveness. So this also has been brought into the criteria. And of course, the other one is about digitization. And this is the in thing, and it will remain as the world evolves and to get into a new norm. And this is going to continue. And the other thing is about the industrial revolution. It's been around since 2016, 17. Been a lot of push on that. And of course, we are trying to bring it forward with new technologies. So the criteria actually addresses how we can make sure that this focus is actually embedded into the criteria. And there's also a small, what you call, a code, which I shared with you. I had a chance to meet her in Chile. Jim Collins, the author of this book, Good to Great. And what she says is that she sees Baldrige process as a powerful set and in people and to create great organizations that produce exceptional results. So the focus is on being disciplined. So you know what you need to do and do it. All of you have PQA framework, just to discipline to do what you want to do and see it through is actually very important. So, as I said, that pursuing excellence in the time of COVID is another issue. How do we use this framework to also help you to assess the organization? So some organizations have done that, and of course, now we talk a bit about US. I think if you know that here 2021, there were 3 winners, and all these 3 winners were previously winners. Two of them were a winner once, so they now become two-time recipient, and one of them was a winner two-time before they became the three-time winner. So these three winners, I think, this Midway USA Charter School, and one more is the Mid America. I think there's these three schools. These three organizations were abolished winners last year. So these were organizations who have already used the framework. They used themselves again for 2020, and they went through the assessment in 2021, and they got an award. So I think these are some of the examples of organizations who remain on the journey, and they use the criteria to actually make sure that they can benefit. So using the Baldrige or using the PQA is an integrated way of assessing yourself. So we don't go back and say, hold on, now COVID, I think the is going around that there are also many. So they made simpler by Boric. They have cut down the number of pages, and they have scaled down the questions, and it's posed on the earlier iterations they had. So they do that so that they can provide the focus for you people to do that. So that there is an opportunity for you to focus and to see what is more important. I think this is very important, that if you want to use an established framework, can also help you, or you can use the ISO set to rely on your organization to ensure things are in place, and if there is a COVID situation, you're able to actually be agile to actually put things in place. So for the leadership, for active leadership, by the issue of war. That being said, leadership can, in a vacuum, apply the Boric principles to the organization. However, the resulting lessons that they've learned so far using the Boric framework, the leaders represented was that implementing the Boric framework is best accomplished through participation, inclusive processes, and engaging all the members of the organization. So this is now what we call active leadership, engaging everybody coming in. So the leader who's committed, the very top, and also not just the very top, the group of the top management, all of them can be as a team. And if all of them are on the same page and they are active, and this is important for engaging people, the right people, and demonstrating a fundamental goal in making sure that they can pursue excellence, so that they can make sure the culture is there and you're actually moving forward for that. So can you go back one? I think this is okay, fine, all right. So that being said, whatever I said, I think just what can be said. Performance excellence as a framework is a very useful tool, as I said, to identify blind spots. At the same time, it provides an overall umbrella for you to make sure that you can maintain and sustain the goal here. So staying relevant is important, as I said that. As I said earlier, digitalization and Industry 4.0, which I said earlier, also covered by the new focus, and you must transform and grow, and you are now being in the new norm ready. Because the new norm is not like going back to 2019 kind of situation. It's really having experienced everything and moving forward with this. Okay, next slide. Next slide. Okay. Here, I'm trying to share with you that that the value that this framework brings to the different levels The leaders are very top management in between, and then the employees are typically the operational staff. So the value is typically using as a basis for continuous improvement, ongoing improvement, and also as provides shared understanding of performance excellence criteria. And normally when people understand it, they see the importance of it and they see the usefulness in it. The only thing they're worried is who going to do it, who going to implement it. And nobody wants to take ownership. Everybody, sometimes you say, pretend like it's not your job, then everybody will not touch it. So once all gets involved, then you find that everybody see that this is going to bring about a better situation, a better performance and programs. More specifically, let's say for these three areas, we talk about the leaders. So now if you use the framework well, you deploy it well, your strategy can also be deployed well because the criteria ask you what you do, how you measure. And then also same time, we help them understand what is important to focus as a leader. Not necessarily because you're a leader means you actually know what is important. But we use the criteria. What is important must count. So as an active leader, you are now important. Understanding what's important, then you can, as a leader, help to engage and get people moving forward. And of course, as a result, you can actually develop a culture of excellence. So if you want to develop a culture of excellence, you still need to go back to your core values of the organization, the desired behaviors that you have, and the kind of way you recognize people for demonstrating that culture is important. Not just by saying this culture is adequate, that's not enough. So the leaders have a responsibility of putting that in place to make sure that the HR people who actually normally take care in place. Management. For the management, it helps to link between strategy and the process performance, of course, then the operations which is the job being done. So they can now see the link. So there is better delivery, better measurements and assessments and feedback for continuous improvements, even for innovation. And engage employees in change and transformation. I think as we all know that our main job, all of us who work in organizations, is not what is on our name cards or what on our business cards. It's actually we are all, whatever I'm a manager for continuous improvement. I think whether you like it or not, whether you're in finance, whatever, your job is typically to continue to improve whatever you're doing today, how to make it better. So we are all officers in charge for continuous improvement. In fact, everybody. So that you can then lead all the improvements that we have. Then for employees, it helps the employees to have a common direction and goals. Because once the leader is clear, the management can link, and then it comes to them so they can see the direction, they can understand the impact of what they do and the impact of what they don't do, how the department organization is going to be affected. And then they can participate. If you engage them well, they can contribute to these improvements. I think this is just to put this thing together, that it's not just something for the leaders or somebody else in the department to know. It's that everybody actually benefits and there's value, the framework that get cascaded down to different levels for people, in fact, across the whole organization. Next slide. Okay. We're talking a bit about the potential benefits for the Philippines Quality Awards. So you may ask that what does the PQA framework have to do with COVID? Let me say nothing. So for those who have embraced the PQA framework, would have observed the resilience that enabled through mature processes. And if we took or we work with the PQA framework seriously, I mean, that is, so you define or you document your processes, then you deploy them, you measure and improve them. These organizations would have a process advantage in a crisis like COVID. So because COVID is not something you can be solved by somebody else giving you the answer. It is something which you need to protect, you need to do something to take care of your staff, your people, stay healthy. So you need to look at your processes yourself. So a framework here helps you what is important and understand yourself. Then imagine these approaches, then using them or modifying them as necessary versus the starting from scratch again. So, COVID situation, these approaches were present, given the organization agile in the process, consistently looking at how you're performing and how do you adjust to the changing workplace. Then when crisis came in, you could easily put in the challenges posed by COVID and make sure that your system process will get into place. So I would think that this is how a PSQ framework or body framework directly remain relevant. Okay, I'll just continue. From my understanding, there are many organizations in Philippines who have embraced PQA, and there are many organizations who have got the kind of recognition in their mastery, proficiency, and commitment, quality. And I know you also have got quality, Philippine quality work winners. And the last winner, I understand, I believe there are one or two others. There's a lot of so let's say we go to the first one, active leadership. So what is as an active leader, approaches do you capitalize on during this pandemic crisis? So if you are aware as a leader what you have as approaches, so you'll be able to say, okay, let us capitalize on, let's do more of this or the justice. Do you need any additional ways to communicate? So these are some of the questions we'll be asking. Senior leadership communication. What content do we want to share with our people? Where do we want to share with them? So these are some of the things which the criteria will have, and some things which the benefit actually can actually be brought about to the different levels. And then for enterprise risks, it's typically what can go wrong? What could go wrong also? This is a question. What risk do we have? Do you know your risk? If you have done risk assessment, if you're using 31,000 as a framework to help you, why not? You know, it can be useful for you to use it to assess yourself. Example, risk for employees, for customers, for community, and whatnot, society, financial, ethical operations, everything, even supply chain. Supply chain was a very important area which was affected in a big way for many countries. Like Singapore, we were hit in a big way by supply chain. So things like, what if the worst happens? Do you have a plan? So these are the kind of questions for enterprise risk and business continuity that the PSQ members, if you are using the PQA, you can actually address this question for that. If a voice of customer, also maybe a bit about customer relationship. Do you have a mechanism to listen to the customers, stakeholders during this changed operating circumstances where COVID has changed a lot of things, correct? And then for relationship again, how will it be, or how will you as an organization continue to build relationships with our customers during this crisis? You cannot abandon your customers during the crisis. You got to continue to make sure that you have a link and you can hear them and you have this relationship because they also have a need. As I said earlier, people, as customers, they have a need. And of course, then how we continue to build relationships in the future, as I said that. Then for performance management, the question here is that what are you measuring now? And what measures do we need to keep our eyes on? What is important now in this COVID situation? customers have concerns, supply chain is an issue, that is an issue, skills is a problem. Like for Singapore, we don't have enough workforce because we're very, what they call foreign workforce in Singapore, so it's so big a hit in a big way. So we need to know that. We need to look at who and when will we do a review so that we can know whether we are performing. How will we launch a performance improvement? What will be considered into that? So for performance management, all these things will be taken into account. Next is about information and knowledge. So here, what IT implications are there? Because a lot of technology, digitization, everything is happening. A lot of use of IT is happening. So what is implications are there? How will data and information be made available for those who need it? How do you do that? What specific knowledge do we need to be transferred to people so that they understand what is happening? What mechanisms will we have to ensure the transfer of knowledge to and from employees, and of course, even from customers to so do we need any additional information? Do we need any additional knowledge now? So more affected farmer. Let's look at it, and then what will we need? Will our process give us what we need when we need? What needs to change? So these are some of the things. So these are some of the questions for supply chain that we have taken into account for. And then for workforce planning and engagement, I think you all are very familiar with what staffing and skills will we need now? As you see, the COVID has brought about the situation different, new skills are required. Does the process allow us to be agile? So depending on your workforce and the workforce profile and other considerations of human resources, how will we communicate these changes to your people? Because people in COVID situation, I think to convince them, to tell them, to make them understand is a very challenging kind of situation. Do we need new rules? How do we engage our workforce during this crisis? There's some organizations in Singapore, I know, that they've used the crisis for better engagement. Some of the organizations say that it's difficult to engage because of the COVID challenges and things like that. So it depends very much on the leadership. Whether do they understand the context correctly? Do they know what and how the people can contribute and engage so that they can get a better outcome? So it's very much context-driven, context of the organization. The next is about health, safety, and security. Is how do you keep our employees safe, secure, and healthy? So I think this is things where the potential benefits are there, and then you can address it to do it better. Next slide. Okay, next slide. This is just a slide to do active leadership process. Basically, the saying is that leadership needs to be involved in all the planning and the very specific details so that people can do a good job. Next slide. Next one. Okay. Here, sorry, back to the earlier one. Back one. Backwards one slide. Okay, here basically what I'm trying to show you all is that this is just an example that you need to have a holistic system level process cascaded down clearly. So I'm just showing you an example of what we have in one organization. I mean, some of the details there are not exactly correct because it is confidential organization. You can find at the top is the Ministry HQ Exco, and next is whole of government. And then you actually go down the next level is the key value creating process, and then you go down to the supporting process. And let's say ops as a key value creating is then cascaded down where the ops management process levels. And then very clear requirements, measurements need to be cascaded down, and then at the ops management process level, it get down to the work process level. And even when it goes down to there, very clear procedures, requirements, performance standards are actually set down there. So the cascading for the active leadership here to make sure from top down is properly, clearly, and practical to understand and can be done kind of articulation has to be done as you go from top to down. Okay, next. Next is about steering. I think we try to get more quicker. So active leadership key qualities. Basically, okay, back. Basically, here we're trying to show that there are actually four things. The first make a good active leader during a crisis. First of all, is personal integrity. Personal integrity as a leader isn't how they perform in good times, it's how they perform in a crisis. So it's very, very important for personal integrity, because integrity is one thing I think all of you must have seen, people driven by personal agenda, personal ego, for a lot of things. So personal integrity to the job, it is it's actually very, very important. As what the next is about bringing everyone to the table. This one is about the lack of encouraging participation. In difficult times, it can be tempting to move fast. You have to move fast and make decisions very quickly without seeking input from others, and it becomes very challenging. Whether you're working in a section, whether you're working in a various associations, so you need to basically get input from everybody to get acceptance. So fluid situations can actually can mean change, or things can change, right? And from one minute to the next. So which can make consensus building hard and very difficult for people to accept. So you must have this knack of encouraging participation, getting on board, and so that you bring everyone to the table. So that when we agree something, there's acceptance. Next is about understanding what you need, right? To actually change. This one is in a crisis. In a crisis, what's important is new information will be learned all the time. So active leaders need to understand that while they might have a plan, they also need to adapt into these new realities. So it's not just something. So plan means you know that. So a lot of new things that's happening, and you need to adapt. So sometimes even tearing up the plan and starting from scratch. So you must have that skill, you must have that ability or that quality to be able to work in that situation. Next is sense of a bigger picture. Bigger picture is very important. Never lose sight of the bigger picture. That's the thing. When you're in the middle of a crisis, it is very easy to move into a survival mode, or just survive working. So you work through the latest issue at the expense of a longer term problems, which can wait until tomorrow. Sometimes we say that. But the best leaders understand that this is short-sighted. You need to see the whole ecosystem, if I may say, so that you have this sense of the bigger picture. Because the bigger picture is a mix of actually of everything. Next slide. So this one is example I'm sharing with you, which was in ST engineering and is still there today. How the leadership involved all the way down as an organization to drive the whole organization, whether it's a group, which is about 27,000 strong in about so many countries, within the businesses, other units that we have. A framework that we drive from the very top, which is the Business Excellence Council, then Business Excellence Component Committees, and then coming down with the principles where leadership all need to be personally involved. Nobody is exempted. And then we use the BE framework, like you using the PSQ framework to guide. And then we do some customers and the broad articulate. And of course, no end to communication, no end to platforms of reviewing, and then the various people who are playing a part. And of course, same time, how do we evaluate as we review? It's just to show you that we have people top to down all involved. So they are all actively involved. 3 monthly once the component committee, 6 monthly one the council. So things get addressed, especially of this moving forward of leveraging technology, innovation, and sustainability and things like that. Next slide. So this one, I think, just to say that you're leveraging on PQ as a tool for sustainability in the new norm. First is leadership, total participation. Then embracing new normal. You cannot say, oh, we're going to go back to the old way of doing it. It is not going to be like, and it will never happen. Never happen. And then your business processes will now have to consider the new norms. The standards have to take into account the new norms because of the new, what you call, regimes, requirements, whether it is hygiene requirement or whether it is compliance to certain safety standards. So you got to make sure all these things are compliant. Then reskilling, upskilling, leveraging technology, leveraging on technology to get innovations, embracing best practices. I think things like this are very important for you as to actually move forward for your sustainability. Next. So this one is typically, your PSQ, so I'm trying to put some kind of PSQ in place for you. So as you know that there are many soft skills may be regarded as leadership skills or are leadership skills. For instance, active listening leaders or active listening enable leaders to better understand the concerns and ideas of their team members so that they can make judgment and take appropriate measures to overcome obstacles and complete, let's say, projects or tasks that they have. So from here, you can see that, first of all, for the perception, the way you see things, and how I think they should or shouldn't be. So it's a perception that they have. And the more they know, the better they can actually get a clearer kind of perception. And self-talk, asking yourself, internal conversation. And then, of course, going to quality, the behavior in what I do as a result of what I tell myself. So you're an active leader. So you have knowledge, you have a perception, you ask yourself internal talk, and then you ensure that your performance actually meets the standard. So it is very important. It's just a model trying to make sure that PSQ can have something that they can look at and see whether it's useful. Okay, next slide. Okay, this one, before you can lead others effectively, as active leader, you need to take care of yourself. So leading stakeholders means focusing on activating the best in them. So leading in systems requires you to be fully aware of relevant context of the organization, context of the case. So the context thing is actually very important. So each of these three areas that we have here is supported by three practices. So there's a connect, care, and commit. So connect is all about awareness. As a leader, you must be aware of what is happening in and around you, and you notice that what truly matters to you. I mean, you'll be able to see that. What's important to you, what's important for your stakeholders, and in your organizational environment. I mean, the context again. So it's very important so that you can connect. You're actually well aware as to what's happening. And the care. The care is all about action, taking action. You care for the people, and you're talking about 3 Ps. You care for the planet, and then you connect or you approach all leadership tasks with a sense of care. So whatever your leadership and the action and activity you have this element of care with you. You decide conscientiously and carefully on how you want to interact, how you want to interact with your stakeholders in context. When I say context, context, look at we talk about quality work. So the organic profile gives you the context of the organization. So you have to make sure that you can able to link that to your context. And then next is commit. Commit is about accountability and delivering results. It's very important. You take personal responsibility to create positive win-win results and changes. And then, of course, uh, you aim for a positive impact and implement your actions and accountability that are flexible and adaptive. I think that's very important. So this connect, care, and commit are perpetual learning and active leadership processes that are needed for all levels of leadership. Whether you're leading yourself, you're leading your stakeholders, or you're leading your systems. I think it's important. So to be effective, so to effectively connect, care, and commit, it takes skills and continuous learning. So you have these three things better and better as you acquire your skills. Next, next. Okay. So with that, I think we have come to the end of it. I'd like to thank you for all your attention and time. Thank you all, and thank you, Dr. Ray and the PSQ board, and all participating in the webinar for this invaluable opportunity. Thank you.
Right. Thank you very much to our very
Thank you
esteemed.
very much to our very
Again, thank you very much, our very esteemed speaker for this afternoon's international webinar, Mr. Harnik Singh. We indeed learned a lot about active leadership from uh, the different skills that we need towards active leadership, how we are able to connect this to the Baldrige Excellence Framework, the benefits that companies could get if they apply active leadership, and that conclusion, the triangle of the three C's, they very much are helpful. So we could remember how active leadership will really work and will help us. What I gathered from the talk was how active leadership is very is a very driven approach, not only for the leaders and the workers, but also uh, for uh, the company, the organization as a whole as well. It involves selflessness, dedication, communication, relationship, and a forward thinking perspective so that it will work for companies. So thank you very much to again to Mr. Harnik Singh for sharing all those things to us. At this point, we'd like to open the floor for any questions that our participants may have about the topic that was just shared to us. So please feel free to drop in your questions in our comment section so that you could we could address the questions to our speaker while he is still here with us in our meeting room for the webinar. So any questions will be highly appreciated as we try to further learn more and clarify things about active leadership. Any questions so far from our participants? We're still waiting for any questions that our participants may have. But for me, Um, Sir Harnick, I believe that I saw active leadership as a framework, an important framework towards organizational improvement and also towards professional development of the individual members of an organization, from the leader to the workers. And it's very clear where active leadership is leading towards, which is the
Thank you. Thank you.
empowerment of the leaders, which is something considered as a core in the Baldrige Excellence Framework, wherein the senior leaders, the top management, are highly highly checked and evaluated. So I think active leadership is something that all organizations should gear towards. So are there any other questions from our participants? Or maybe any concluding words from Sir Harnick? Anything you wish to add for those participants of ours who are indeed seeing active leadership and would like to start the revolution in their respective organizations? They would, if someone here would like to be advocates of active leadership in their respective companies, what could they do? All right. So I believe there are some concerns about the recording. So,
Gil, I think I can cut off.
yeah, yes, sir.
Can I take leave because there's interruption and bad network quality? Is there any question? Just put on the chat.
Okay, so far, sir, we don't have any questions.
So
There
far,
are
all
no.
good.
Yes, sir, no questions so far. But I just asked earlier if maybe you could share some tips to our participants if they would like to start the active leadership movement in their organizations. What do you think is the first thing that they should do so that active leadership will really be imbibed as a framework and a way of life in their respective organizations? All right. Sir Harnick, hello. Okay, I believe we are experiencing some technical difficulties on our speaker's end.
I believe, Hill, we can proceed with
Yes,
the. Just
yes.
go to that slide.
All right. Okay, sir. So I believe that there are no more additional questions about our session for this afternoon. I think things are clear. Maybe we could get some bits and pieces of tips from the entire presentation, how we could revolutionize in our own organizations. Allow me now to read the citation of the Certificate of Appreciation for our speaker. Allow me to go over the citation for imparting valuable insights and inspiration to the participants during PSQ's April 2022 international webinar with the topic Active Leadership, Enabling Transformation for Sustainability on April 29, 2022. The Certificate of Appreciation is given by the Philippine Society for Quality to Mr. Harnek Singh.
Thank you,
So
thank
thank you
you,
very much
thank you
once
very much.
again to our speaker, Mr. Harnik Singh.
Thank you very much. Thank you all. Thank you, everybody.
Yes, thank you, sir. And of course, that certificate was signed by the PSQ president, Dr. Ray Premista. Thank you
Thank
very
you,
much
Dr.
to
Ray.
everyone for being here. And once again, to our speaker, Mr. Harnik Singh, for sharing your thoughts and ideas about the topic. We would like to hear from you, our dear participants, about your experience in this international webinar. Please feel free to click the link or scan the QR code so that you will be able to answer in the experience survey. By answering this, you will be able to provide us feedback as to how we could further improve future webinars and activities like this, and so that you could also be given your respective certificates of participation for today's webinar.
Okay, thank you all my friends. Thank you, Dr. Ray. Thank you, the board. Thank you, Mil.
Thank you, Mr. Harnik.
Gil, all the best. See you soon. Salamat po.
Maraming salamat din po.
Okay.
Once again, our
Thank you
speaker.
so much. Great
Salamat
fun.
din po. Thank you very much.
Yes, all right. Thank you very much again to our speaker, Mr. Harnik Singh. Once again, to our participants, you are encouraged to answer our experience survey, the link of which is shared um, in our chat. Please access that. And for you to get to know more activities and announcements and updates from the Philippine Society for Quality, please go to your social media applications in Facebook and in Instagram and follow PSQ's official pages. To all of you, our dear participants for today's webinar, thank you very much for always trusting and for always being with the Philippine Society for Quality. This has been your host for this afternoon's affair, Hil Malien Jr., saying thank you and abuhay, PSQ Nation.